Hey guys, today I am 1 month postpartum and I want to talk all about boobs and bottles.
Hi everyone. Your baby.
What? How are these inside out? Oh my god, get out of here.
Thank you. Mwah.
The first couple of weeks as your milk is trying to establish itself can be really difficult. You go from feeling like you don't have enough milk to feeling completely engorged and like you have way too much milk and you don't know what to do with it. I hope some of these tips will help you through this journey. The first tip is the haakaa. The haakaa catches the letdown from the breast that you are not breastfeeding on. Make note that the letdown is only made of foremilk. The foremilk should not be used all by itself in a bottle as it lacks that fatty goodness that is made up of your hind milk. You can definitely tell the difference between the two. The foremilk will be a lot more watery looking and have maybe a blue tint to it, and the hind milk will look a lot thicker and sometimes have a little bit of a yellow tint to it. And the hind milk is what really has all that fatty goodness for your baby. The second tip I have for you are supplements. The first supplement that I will recommend is the Mother Love More Milk Plus. It says you can take 4 a day, but I tend to only take 1, maybe 2 a day, and some days I don't even take any at all. With my first, I definitely did take all 4 because I did have some trouble producing milk with her at first. The second thing I recommend are lactation cookies. I have a video coming up about how I make them. And I usually eat about 3 to 5 a day, and I definitely would eat more because they're so delicious, but I'm afraid I might become too engorged and make too much milk, which is exactly what happened the first time around with my first daughter. With taking the supplements and the lactation cookies, I just kind of ate as many cookies as I wanted, and eventually I was having to pump every 2 hours around the clock. And I was donating 100 ounces a week as well as storing milk in my deep freezer. So I don't suggest doing too much, especially at first as your milk is trying to establish itself. But you can always take a supplement here or there throughout the day and eat a couple of lactation cookies and just see how your body responds to it. It's important to know that you produce more milk in the morning than you do in the evening. So if you're doing any sort of supplements, it's best to do it midday so that you can kind of bridge the gap in your evening supply. The third tip is how to utilize your pump. In the beginning and in the few first days, and even in the first couple of weeks, your milk is trying to establish itself and learn how much your baby needs. And you can actually trick your body into thinking that your baby needs more milk. The first tip on how to do that is to empty out your entire breast. If you want to breastfeed, I would not suggest emptying both breasts at the same time, especially in the beginning, because then you won't be able to have any milk left to feed your baby if your baby wants to eat within the first hour after you've pumped. So stick to one breast at a time for this tip. I also pair it with the haakaa. So with the haakaa, I will put it on the breast that I am not feeding on. I will let my baby nurse, and then after she's done, I will empty out that breast. I will mix the foremilk with the hind milk, and it creates a good balance in the bottle for her. If she doesn't end up using the bottle, then I end up just storing it anyway. Tip number 2 is to pump for a full 15 minutes. If you ever watch what happens as you pump, you have multiple letdowns throughout your session. So for me, my letdowns happen about every 5 minutes, and I produce about an ounce from each side every 5 minutes or so. So after 5 minutes, I have about 2 ounces. After 10 minutes, I have about 4 ounces, and then after 15 minutes, I have about 6 ounces. Now that I'm 4 weeks postpartum, I'm getting about 8 ounces every 5 hours that I pump, and I only pump every 5 hours or so. that tricks my body into thinking that she needs about 4 more feedings a day and that I can just stick in my freezer, which has really helped me in creating a good stash in my freezer. We will be trying for baby number 3 in about 5 more months, and the only reason I would stop breastfeeding would be if we are having troubles conceiving because I am breastfeeding. So I want to make sure that I have a good supply stocked in my freezer just in case that happens. Tip number 3 is watch your settings. You don't want to crank up your settings too much because any pain might actually hinder your milk supply. So make sure you start off on a low setting, just like your baby would kind of suckle a little bit, and wait for that letdown. If you are too engorged, it might even hurt even on the lowest setting. So just wait until it starts to feel a little bit better and your milk starts to flow just a little bit, and then you can move your settings up. I have the Spectra 2. And it goes all the way up to 12, but I usually end my settings anywhere between 5 and 7, typically only about 5. The last tip I have is storing your milk. Right now she's 4 weeks old and she eats about 1.5 ounces to 2.5 ounces per feeding. They say at this point she should be eating about 1 ounce an hour, which typically she eats every 1.5 hours to 2.5 hours, so that does make sense. So when I pump, I will keep 4 ounces of what I've pumped in a bottle, like this, just in case someone else wants to feed her, or if we need to go anywhere, and then I store the rest in the refrigerator. I've never had to tap into what I've put in the refrigerator. Got a visitor. I've never had to never had to tap into it, so I will usually keep it in there until I've got 6 ounces, and then I can put it in a freezer bag. I will keep the bottle out for about 4 to 5 hours, never any longer than that, especially because I pump again after 5 hours, and she typically breastfeeds more than she does bottle feed. And sometimes my flow is a lot faster than she would like, and sometimes it's slower than she would like, just depending on her hunger level. So I don't battle with her on breastfeeding. I made the mistake of doing that with my first, and it became really emotionally hindering sometimes. So the bottle is there for anyone else who wants to feed her, or just in case she doesn't want to breastfeed at that time, I have something to lean back on. A tip for storing your milk: if you ever notice the milk that you put in the refrigerator, it will separate and you will get a thick film that goes around the outside. That is your hind milk. That's the good fatty stuff. So a tip that I have for getting all of the good nutrients from your milk as possible: the freezer bags hold 6 ounces. So I will fill up a bottle in the refrigerator to 5 ounces. And then I will pour it into the freezer bag, and then I take 1 ounce from what's been sitting out and I'll put it inside that bottle and I'll swish it around. Milk that is not cold will just get all of that hind milk off of the bottle really quickly and easily. So I'll just swish it around. I don't shake the milk. And then I pour that into the freezer bag and stick it in the freezer. Milk is good for 6 months in the freezer and 12 months in a deep freezer. So if you really want to create a good stash, then I would definitely suggest investing in a deep freezer. I think someone is hungry, so I'm going to end this video on that note. If you have any other tips and tricks, I would love to hear about them in the comments. If there's anything that I forgot, please let me know. I look forward to sharing my next video with you, which should be the lactation cookies, so stay tuned for that. Also, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. Thank you so much for watching.